move. This is by design. Protocol requires the guard to maintain a firm grip, to be in full control while escorting an inmate back to his cell. This is for the safety of both the guard and also the inmate. Protocol was not followed that morning. Out of nowhere, a loud scream echoed through a two-story prison unit. This was quickly followed by what sounded like a watermelon crashing into a concrete floor. It took a few seconds to realize what just happened. Reality did not hit until I saw blood slowly seeping under my cell door. The inmate died on contact with his hands cuffed behind his back. This was one of 9 deaths I saw while incarcerated. Brand 316 is a Christian ministry focused on lowering recidivism. This was, most people released from prison are not prepared for a society that wants nothing to do with them. They are not trained for success nor prepared for the obstacles that are inevitable. We train inmates while they are incarcerated with life and practical skills that they need when released. We focus on everything from anger management to creating a budget, from building credit to how to be a great employee. We also have weekly Bible studies focused on the fact that we do serve a God of second chances. We prepare them for life after incarceration. We prepare them for the obstacles they are guaranteed to face. We give them real, practical steps that they can learn while inside to succeed after prison. Now, imagine walking into the most important meeting of your life. You're walking in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, with no notes, no support, no preparation, not even an idea of who you are meeting with. And just to top it off, you're told in advance that your chance of success is slim to none. That is a taste of what reentry feels like when you're not prepared, and even when you are prepared. We work with inmates in both the state and federal system, the closest being at the Wichita Work Release Center. When they are released, we have a home in Delano, which provides a stable and healthy environment, a 52-week back-to-society training program, jobs waiting for them, one-on-one mentorship, counseling, and churches that will accept them with arms wide open. Did you know that 1 out of every 4 Americans has a criminal record? The stigma of incarceration starts from the day that you are arrested and continues for the rest of your life. Now, when you hear that somebody has a criminal record, what do you think? Do you believe they deserve a second chance? What if they paid their debt to society? Or are they not worth your time? Or maybe just simply not worth the risk? Also, what are your perceptions of the criminal justice system? In general, there are 3 common views or groups. The first, trust the system, the process, the prosecutors. You know it's not perfect, but it is pretty dang close. The second group has no trust in the system. You know there's unethical representatives and is relatively unchecked. The third group is you generally trust the system. You know it has several flaws, but honestly there is not much that you can do about it anyways. And it has really little impact on your life, with that small asterisk until it does. I believe that all viewpoints point to forgiveness and facilitating. So if you believe that in the justice system, then you need to believe that after we are released, we have been rehabilitated and we deserve a second chance. If you have no trust in the system, then you know we need every ounce of help that we can get. And if you think nothing can be done, there are several things that can be done and practical steps that can be taken when you leave today. I also think it's important to look at this from both sides, that both sides are not perfect. These are just a few headlines that will bring up some stuff. So, Holden correctional officer arrested for smuggling meth into prison. 4 Missouri prison guards charged with murder and a 5th with manslaughter for the death of a black man. Kansas correction officer arrested for sex trafficking. 3 counts of sex trafficking a minor, 3 counts of sexual assault. Former Kansas corrections officer gets probation for trafficking contraband, so that's drugs or a cell phone, into prison. Do you think you would get probation if you did that? An ethically challenged Kansas prosecutor who purposely framed an innocent man finally got disbarred years after they found out. And probably the most telling, at FCI Thompson, a warden realizing all the corruption going on in his prison, decided to take a stand and make actual changes. He then found out through the inmates that the guards put out a hit on him through inmates. I grew up in Los Angeles. After graduating from Azusa Pacific University, I entered an executive training program in a Global 500 company. I then started a digital marketing firm which grew rapidly. We served several hundred clients worldwide and generated over $1.5 billion in revenue for our clients. My father, Dr. Keith Phillips, founded World Impact, a Christian ministry focused on the inner cities of America. The disadvantaged have been in my heart since I was a child, growing up as a missionary's kid and then a successful entrepreneur. The next obvious question is why prison ministry? I already kind of answered that and Marlon helped. My experience with the criminal justice system was abrupt and unexpected. On April 25th, 2017, I was arrested by several federal agents for the use of interstate commerce to commit murder for hire. At that moment, I made the mistake of thinking that guilt or innocence actually mattered. I soon realized that the resources invested in arresting me had only one conclusion, no matter what the facts were. Career-focused agents and prosecutors have the power to paint any picture that they want and have unlimited government resources to ensure a victory. The trial judge said my case was the most complicated case he had ever seen in his over 20 years on the bench. Evidence was withheld. Witnesses were encouraged to and blatantly did lie under oath. I was not able to testify, and as a first-time offender, I was not given bail for a crime I did not commit. There is a reason the federal government has a 99.6% win rate. I refused to take a plea deal, which also offered a significant time reduction, but would also require me to admit to something I did not do. I went to trial and was found guilty, shocked, and sentenced to 90 months in federal prison. The appeals court found that there was error in my trial, but said it was quote-unquote harmless. They ruled that the district court abused its discretion by not allowing all evidence into the trial. It's hard to imagine how evidence not being allowed into a trial for a jury that was split for multiple days could be considered harmless. Did you know that studies suggest that 1 out of every 20 criminal convictions is a wrongful conviction? That means that over 100,000 people at this moment are sitting in a prison cell for a crime they did not commit. I also want to be very clear. I have deep respect for the many men and women in law enforcement who serve with honor and integrity. My story is not a reflection on them. It's a reflection on the need for us to better understand the system. There are people in prison that deserve to be there their entire life. There are people in prison that absolutely deserve longer sentences. There are also people in prison that deserve some grace. But the problem and reality is with 95% of people in prison eventually going to be released into our communities, why wouldn't we commit to realistic, effective solutions that finally address the cycle of recidivism? It's not a complicated issue to fix. I was also shocked by the amount of corruption within the prison system. When I was transferred to a prison in New Orleans, a guard came, handed me a small piece of paper. It had his email address on it. He then listed out the cost of cigarettes, methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin. This was the same prison where they found a loaded handgun in the cell next to me just 2 weeks later. In prison, you literally can buy anything. It's important for you to understand the culture of prison to better understand the full scope of reintegration. What shocked me the most inside was not the violence, it really wasn't the corruption, and it was not the isolation. It was the hopelessness inside. There is a quiet, heavy realization when you're inside that success after prison is impossible. That even after you're serving your time and doing your time, and paying your debt to society is still not going to want to have anything to do with you. You also have a ton of free time inside, as you can imagine. Conversations always led to, what are you going to do when you get out? It could be, I can't wait to see my family. I can't wait to eat some real food. I can't wait to see my kids. It was always followed, though, by, I hope I stay out a long time this time. It always shocked me hearing that. Why would you do anything to ever go back to prison? Why would you put yourself in that position? The reply was always the same. You'll see when you get out. When we're released, we have no chance. The system's built against us. In prison, hope is a very rare commodity. I bring up the flaws of the system for two reasons. One, so you are aware of the issue, and two, so you have a better understanding of the day-to-day life in prison, so you also understand the difficulties of reintegration. You are leaving one environment into a completely different set of rules and norms. As an example, in prison, you don't ask other people for help. It is a bad idea. It always leads to some kind of drama. There is always debt after you do that, and it is a sign of weakness. Out here, the bank, when you owe a debt, will send you a very aggressive letter and they'll come after you. In prison, if you own a debt, the debt collectors are not exactly HR approved. But think about this. Avoiding debt when you are released is a key success factor for successful reintegration. And it's a habit that you have already developed while you are incarcerated. It's a good habit to have when you're released. So why not keep those habits when people get released? What we do is we train our members in practical and valuable topics just like that, which then translate into real-world, long-term success. The amount of people that know they are going to be released but have zero hope of success after is hard to understand until you hear the statistics. It's hard to understand until you live it. The national recidivism rate, need a swig of water. The national recidivism rate hovers around 68%. That means of the 600,000 inmates released in the last 12 months, 600,000, 408,000 will be rearrested within 3 years. That's a gigantic number. After 5 years, that number jumps up to 79%. There is a beacon of hope, though. Of that 68%, when people are employed, it drops down to only 9%. So, as a city, and a country, it's also important to understand the issues and the impact it has on our city and our country. Incarceration, there are currently 2 million people incarcerated, a little over that. Incarceration has increased the U.S. poverty rate by over 20%. That is 7.5 million Americans affected by it. 27% of the formerly incarcerated are currently unemployed. Yet, when you get out, you are required to work. It is not a lack of trying to get jobs, it's a lack of hiring. And most telling, a family's probability is 40% higher to be poor, be in poverty, if the father is incarcerated. Again, this is an issue that our city faces, and it's an issue that can be solved. So then you lead to, what are the main factors of failure? Number one is preparation. When you Google reintegration training, the first 10 results are about the importance of helping military members and their families navigate the transition back to civilian life. And it makes total sense. You are leaving an extremely structured environment into one that is total freedom, and it is difficult for anyone to fully handle that. As a country and a city, what if we expanded our view of reintegration to include the least of these, the lepers of our society? What if we recognize that people coming home from prison, obviously under complete different circumstances, also face the challenge of entering a world that has moved on without them? They are leaving a dangerous environment that dictates every single move they make, when they eat, when they go to the bathroom, when they're allowed to do anything, into one that immediately expects independence, stability, responsibility, without giving them any preparation at all. If we are serious about reducing recidivism, we have to be just as serious about offering returning citizens a structured, realistic path forward. And then it actually leads to a question of, like, think about it. Do you believe in second chances? Do you actually believe in giving somebody a second chance? Education is another pivotal issue. Within the state and federal system, there is a true lack of training and education. This is true in Kansas. This is true in the federal system. This is true in every single state. Almost all state and federal prisons offer a GED preparation course and taking the test. Very few offer training focused on developing somebody as a person, like how to be a good employee, how to be a productive member of society, how to budget, things like that make sense. At the prison I was at in Massachusetts, you literally could pay another inmate to take the GED on your behalf. And the guard was perfectly okay with it because it boosted his success rate, which means more pay for him eventually. There are some wonderful job training programs in the States. In Kansas specifically, there's some great ones. Capital 3 at Hutchinson. They do phenomenal work of training guys while they're inside and teaching them how to be good employees. The Wichita Work Release Center does phenomenal. They have great leaders that actually care about the guys inside and giving them an opportunity. Upon release, there are also places like WSU Tech and Goodwill that have huge hearts for giving people second chances. But they are few and far between. We have a 52-week reintegration book, which prepares inmates while they are incarcerated for success after release. It's this book right here. At the cost of just $17 per inmate per year. It's a practical solution that works. Now, can we really say we believe in second chances if we're not willing to provide the resources to make those chances possible? Housing, another major issue. Property management companies very rarely will take the risk and rent to a felon. Individual landlords, they do sometimes look at the person as a whole. What's a big issue in our city and throughout the country? Homelessness. 23% of people released from the KDOC go directly into homelessness. 23%. It's a problem in our city, as you know. Now, if you're a landlord and somebody meets all your rental criteria, but they're a felon, maybe take a minute or two and get to know the person. Maybe don't judge them on decisions from 5 years ago. Look at them as a whole. See where they are at now. I encourage you to look at them as a whole. And then, really one thing that a lot of guys are doing is just taking 5 minutes, have a quick phone call, and you might be talking to somebody that is much different than that piece of paper suggests. And it's a simple way that you could leave today and make a difference and an impact on somebody's life. Now, acceptance is another big issue. Everyone in this room, for sure, has had a second chance, a third chance, probably a fourth chance, in my case, many more, throughout your life. We all have that life-changing moment. I encourage you, take a few seconds and think about and picture that person, that moment, where you got a second chance and you really didn't deserve it. There was no reason to give you a second chance. It might be personal. It might be religious, might be business related, might be maybe a teacher or a loved one. Can you picture that moment? Envision that person? And then ask yourself, where would you be today if that person didn't give you a second chance? Employment. As business owners, entrepreneurs, VPs, right here in Wichita with power throughout the country, this may be where you can have the greatest impact. People recently released from prison make outstanding employees. There are tons of studies that show that. Every single business owner that has hired a member of Brand 316 has had one reply to me, and it's always the same. Do you have any more people you can send to me? Why? Because they work harder. They show up on time. Why? Because they're used to showing up on time, because that's all you do in prison. They're more loyal because they are appreciative of the job and chances that you took on them. That second chance is not just life-changing for that person. It is good, smart business for you. There are government incentives along with that. Now, I am not saying hire somebody only because they're a felon. I'm saying do not disqualify them because they have a record. As an example, one of our members, who's pretty recently released, chose to come to Wichita. Not because it's where he was from, because he wanted to escape what he called the lion's den of his old town and old life. He's from another state and made a strategic choice to come to Wichita, and it was a great choice for him. Inside, we trained him on preparing for the future, thinking long term, making smart strategic choices that put you in the best possible position to succeed. Make a list of who you shouldn't be around when you get out because they're gonna lead to negative behaviors. And he did that, so he decided to come to Wichita. Day 2, already he was applying for jobs. He got a group interview. He was excited. 2 days later, he got offered the position. It was great pay, a great opportunity for him, literally the job he wanted. He couldn't wait. They told him all he needed to do was pass a drug test. No problem, he's clean. And a background check. He was honest. His only conviction was over a decade ago, a nonviolent drug-related case. They said any criminal history would disqualify him. He's done everything right since. He was trying to rebuild his life with integrity, and all he needed was a little bit of grace. Ironically, it was a Christian organization that would not give him a second chance. Unfortunately, this is common and something faced by pretty much everybody that has a record. He was able to get employment through a business owner that knew about our ministry. He, since then, in the last 6 months, has been promoted 3 times and has had 33% pay raise over that time frame. He has not been late once for work. And he is now training other employees, appointed by the CEO, to train other employees on how to be a good employee. He needed one single business owner, just one, to take that tiny chance on him. That's it. So is that something you'd be willing to do? Would you take a chance? Imagine if every single business owner, VP, manager, etc., took one single chance in the next week. The impact you would have on this city would be tremendous. Brand 316 is about more than just reducing recidivism and spreading the word of Christ. It's about rebuilding lives with dignity, purpose, and hope. It's about real people getting real second chances with your help. Rotary is not just a service club. It is a local, national, international, powerful force for good, filled with great people. People that actually care. I know that because I know many of you. And right now, you can be the difference between a revolving door and a fresh start. Wichita is also extremely different. I heard that, my wife and I both heard that tons of times before we moved here. People are friendlier. There is no traffic here, which is beautiful, and you can experience all 4 seasons in a 24-hour period. Allergies are the worst I've ever had in my life. No one mentioned that part. Wichita is a city where people actually care and have the strength, compassion, and courage to take on some of the biggest issues our country faces. So, then you lead to the Downtown Wichita Rotary Club. You are one of the largest in the country. You have the power to set a new national standard. Like literally, the people here, sitting here right now, you could make a decision today and set a new national standard, and other Rotary clubs could follow you. That is a very realistic thing that could happen. So I leave you with this. What if you were judged by your worst moment, by everybody you know, and people you have never met in your entire life, after you've already paid your debt to society? Now, imagine the power of saying, and someone saying, you still matter, and giving you a second chance. Now, we're not asking for handouts. We're asking for a shot, a chance, and a little bit of faith in redemption. If you want to figure out ways to get involved with Brand 316, I encourage you to reach out. That's my email address. That's my cell phone number. There's business cards down here as well. Come say hi, grab a business card. Thank you so much for your time, and God bless.